All right. What's up, Brad? Welcome to the show. How are you today, my friend?
Doing very well. Thank you so much, Philip, for having me on the show.
Absolutely, man. It's my pleasure to have you. So, everybody listening out there or watching, Brad is the host. He's a fitness professional on pretty much every avenue of the game. He's either he's walked that walk, and he's always plowing new avenues out. But he's the current host of the Over 40 Fitness Hacks podcast. Excuse me on that little name flub there, but we wanted to invite Brad on and see what makes his entrepreneurial mind tick. So Brad, take it away. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just on a Zoom call with some other podcasters. I have a coaching program, and one of them, I hadn't put my video on, and people were like, "Oh my God, it's Brad Williams. Is it the famous comedian?" And I said, I got on. I was like, "No, that guy's been using my name and dragging it through the mud for years." But no,
like,
I'm hoping,
never mind. I'll save that joke for later.
Yeah. I was hoping that one day the funny Brad Williams actually sees me on all these other shows, like, who is this guy? And messaged me one day. That'd be awesome.
That would be cool. It's like Michael Bolton, huh? Yeah, you must really love his music.
Yeah.
Anyway, so tell us about yourself. You've been a gym owner. You are a fitness professional. I use that term loosely because some of us are coaches, some of us are trainers, some of us are therapists. And if you've been in the fitness game long enough, then you know what I'm talking about. Got a little creepy lighting going here. I'm going to change that off. So how would you define yourself? What best describes the feathers in your cap, sir?
Yeah. So, I kind of grew up here in Central California, was always a fitness enthusiast into sports.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was a medical doctor. Mom was a nurse. So I kind of had that upbringing. And later in life, graduated college, business major, always wanted to be an entrepreneur, didn't know what I wanted to do. And through different various jobs and kind of discovering myself, my brother and I decided, you know what, I got my personal training certification and was really loving training all my friends and people at work. I was like, let's go for it. So 14 years ago, I opened up my first gym in Huntington Beach, California. Kind of wish I started the personal trainer route first, just renting space, then open. But I went, got some money, got some investors, and just went for it. And you can learn what you want in college, but you don't know anything until you actually get in the game, and then it's just the wild
Isn't
wild
that
west.
The truth? Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And then California, just being one of the hardest states to even do business in, especially with our kind of industry. But over the last 14 years, I operated 3 different gyms at my high point, had a bunch of investors really trying to push me. And, like I said, California was real hard. We had our ups and downs, and we decided to consolidate down. And then COVID forced us to kind of consolidate down again. So now, I've got one spot left here in Huntington Beach. It's our favorite one. I kind of pulled away by force from COVID and started doing more online training, just like everyone you've probably been talking to. Started my podcast. That started doing so well that I said, well, I don't want to give up the brick and mortar game yet. So let's do both. So that's currently what I'm doing. And kind of my niche has always been the over 40 crowd. And then the reason I started my podcast was, turning 40 myself 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. I started seeing how the aging process affected your body with, weight loss, injuries, energy levels. And now I feel bad for, when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, telling all my clients, come on, you just need to, train more days and work out harder and diet better. You're not doing it right. Always with fun. But now I'm like in their boat and I'm like, oh my God, they were right. This is horrible.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. But, that's kind of the theme of my show. And, I'm the personal trainer and that fitness enthusiast. I refuse to quit. So now I've got to find all these different, I call them hacks. They're mostly just tips. I kind of use hacks because it's trendy. But, what kind of things can I do to optimize without, working out 7 days a week? I don't want to do that. And, I've got a lower back injury from a freak accident. So everything I got to do is more quality, just work smarter, not harder. And that's kind of the whole theme of how I'm progressing through life now.
I had to say, when I checked out your podcast, I immediately I was like, there's got to be more than just 40 hacks. Like it seems like there's way more than that. And then I reread the title. I was like, oh wait, it's age, not the number of hacks you've got. But it
Yeah.
was a clever name. I like it because I'm almost in that bracket myself. And I think what's really important, and well, I don't know if it's well, we'll just say important to recognize, is the over 40 crowd. When you're about 35 to 55, that's the demographic that has the disposable income and has the experience, be it with injury, age, time on this planet, whatever your vintage is, to hopefully not ignore the things that have gone on in their body, and seek professional help from a trainer, from a coach, from some sort of professional mentor, be it in the physical or the psychological realm. And as a seasoned veteran in the training industry, you know that those often blend over into the two, very well, pretty much always. Actually, no one is ever a steel trap. There's
Yeah.
always some sort of psychology involved in training any demographic. But the older you get, the more those socio-economic factors come into play. Because let's take, for example, at the time of this recording, Silicon Valley Bank just crashed last week. And I'm up in Northern California, and you better believe that the psychology of that happening, the fact of that happening, had an effect on the psychology of many of the people that I work with. And as a veteran in the industry myself, I better be equipped to help people more than just count sets and reps.
Yeah.
So,
well, not only that, but you got to worry about, people starting to tighten up their purse again. And, we already went through this kind of process through COVID, and people
right.
leaving and, saving their money type thing. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that the one thing with the length of time that trainers, we'll just call ourselves entrepreneurs, fitrepreneurs, if you will, coined that, bam. And I think one thing that's notable is that we're able to communicate how important health is to someone's well-being. And while working session to session, your hourly rate might be your top tier level of service. Presenting a service, man, my lights are just crazy today, excuse me. Presenting a service that might be mid-tier or something that's a little more scalable in the online space has been huge for survival of the fittest during COVID.
Yeah.
Sorry about that pun there. How did you pivot when COVID came around, Brad? Other than, I mean, you mentioned shuttering some of your businesses and consolidating, but
yeah, that's the thing, is pivoting. Because when I first came into the industry 14 years ago, I already saw after the 2008 real estate crash that people were tightening up their purse, and no one was paying for the private training like they were before. There was always some people who were well off enough that could do that, but I already foresaw that and started pushing more of that semi-private, where you're training 3 to 4 people at the same time. But my kind of thing was, you don't have to find those people. I'll find those people. That's part of my marketing strategy. So it took time, but after a year, I started filling up those groups, and it was very affordable.
Interesting. Yeah. So you found clients for trainers?
Well, no. So I would train clients, and usually the standard back then was, you either do private or you do tandem, or maybe a 3-pack, whatever you call that, tandem probably as well.
Sure.
But the client would have to come bring their own friends. And so you put it on them. So I didn't want to put that on them. I said, you sign up, I'll take care of it. So you might be getting private one-on-one training for a while, but then with my marketing, I'll bring more people in as long as you're okay with that. And you guys are all in your own routine. One's bodybuilding, one's weight loss, one's doing sports, and that's fine. And you still get kind of a customized experience with that 3 to 4 people, and it's not like a 20-person boot camp. So that's what I did for a long time, and I was very competitive in the industry.
So kind of, can you unpack that for me a little bit? Because you're selling hours of time, as we do. And how is it that you're able to maestro multiple styles of physical effort? If I'm an obstacle course racer, and then I've got my wife is a dancer, and my buddy is a bodybuilder, how and we would all come to you in the same hour. How does that session breakdown look?
Well, so with the 3 to 4 people and not too many trainers in the place, and at the time it was probably a 1,200 square foot gym, and not every
Got
trainer
it.
could do it, but being real good at doing moving multiple things at the same
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
programming everyone's splits. And I mean, for the most part, 90% of the people that were coming into our gym were all basically looking for the same thing, just simple body toning and weight loss.
Right.
Every now and then I would get a young kid that wanted to do some athletic training or someone that wanted to do bodybuilding. It was easy to
Mhm.
throw in the mix. But yeah, if I had every hour and there was something from every type of modality and training, I'd have to crunch it down to 2 or 3 people probably. But
Yeah, that seems exhausting on
yeah,
just on your energy also.
yeah. But that's why I would stop at 4. 4 was the absolute max that I could give each one of them my time
Yeah.
and just run in a circle and put them on their own little circuits. And I had enough room in my gym to do that. And then
Yeah.
I taught a few other trainers to do the same style, and then we ended up getting a bigger spot. So, but
Excellent.
yeah, fast forwarding another 5 years, all the boot camp gyms started coming in,
Mhm.
and with their big corporate money. So you got your Orange Theory coming in, F45 a little bit later, but things like Orange Theory, and they came in with a real rock bottom price. They were real trendy, nice looking,
Mhm.
with some tech involved,
Mhm.
and that was the next thing. So then I pivoted again and decided to, they're taking all our clients. Everyone's tightening up their money. It's cheap, so much cheaper to go to there. They have a nicer place because they got the big corporate money.
Yep.
So instead of going after the clients, I was already renting space to trainers, and I noticed that all the other gyms either weren't doing it or would request that trainer you had to pay a max rent no matter if you had one client. And I didn't think that was fair. So I
Yeah.
said, well, I don't care as long as you have your insurance and we talk and I vet you out. If you have one client, I'll work with that. So I did a daily rate, a weekly rate, and then a monthly rate, and then a max. And so I
Hmm.
just started gathering all these trainers, and then that's all I marketed to was just trainers. So at one point I had like 65 trainers at all 3 of my gyms, and I was
Wow.
making most of my rent from them
Yeah.
versus clients or memberships. And it was good
Okay.
for me as the boss because training. Yeah, at one point I was training 42 people at any given month. It was just too much.
Yeah.
So that way I was allowed to simmer down a little bit and work more on the expansion.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you want to take at some point you want to take your focus off of the day to day more so you can step back and see the forest for the trees, through the trees. Let me back up a little bit because we kind of just jumped in because that's what people who are passionate about the same thing tend to do. How did you arrive in the fitness business to begin with? 14 years ago, was it?
Yeah, so I graduated Long Beach State with a business major. Just wanted to be an entrepreneur like my uncle. He's just done so well in life with all these different types of manufacturing companies, but he kind of helped me through the business model and everything and figured out what I wanted to do. And
Hmm.
like I said, I had grown up with that influence of fitness, being healthy, and is into sports. And I got my personal training certification at one of my jobs where I was working at the Port of Los Angeles, and it
Okay.
was a nice, high-paying job that had huge gym facilities in there. And so I got my certification because no one else knew what they were doing in that gym. So I said, all right, well, let me get my certification, insurance. I'm going to start hustling and making more money at this awesome job. And I was
Got
killing
it.
it.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided, man, I've already saved up all this money. I know what I'm doing. This is what I'm passionate about. I've never felt like this before. Let's go do this. And so that's how I ended up just quitting and jumping into my first gym in Huntington Beach.
So your first gym in Huntington Beach was, what was it called?
Evolve Gym.
Evolve Gym. Got it. Okay. And was it just you training there solo, or were you looking to bring trainers on immediately?
So starting out was just me and about 6 to 8 of my friends that said they would come in, and
Okay.
one showed up, and that was the only one I ever got.
Okay.
So
Friends
I
come in as trainers or come in as clients?
it's as clients. So
Okay.
part of my business model was I had a little bit of income coming in to start, which did not happen.
Yeah.
So I just hustled and did marketing, online marketing, just walking around all the businesses and sat in that place Monday through Sunday, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. And just that's how
Yeah.
I eventually built up. And, I got my sister-in-law to be a trainer because she didn't like her physical therapy career. So she came in, and I found 2 other trainers within 6 months that were really rock solid. And that was kind of the core group of Evolve. And then
That's
after that, we
great.
kind of just expanded.
Okay, excellent. It's all about who you have as your bedrock
Yep.
for the business, and that's something that I can attest to in business and in life, actually. Just who are your core folks, the
Yep.
boom, 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 the four legs to stand on.
And if you
Um,
find one, do not let them go because there's not that many core
oh
bedrocks out
no,
there.
we at our space, we've got kind of a round table of knights, if you will, and
Yep.
everybody's just, all right, let's hear your thoughts. How are things? What could be better? I want to make sure you're taken care of. Um, Okay, so let's shift over to the podcast.
Mhm.
You know, over 40 fitness hacks. What how did this come about?
So like I said, my niche has always been just because that was what was coming in our doors was the over 40
Uh-huh.
crowd.
Uh-huh.
And here in Orange County, it's basically it's city by city, it's different for business and for just like the personality of the town. Our town here specifically of Huntington Beach and some of our adjacent cities, it's more of a party spot. So a lot of my over 40 people coming in have money because it takes money to live here,
Mhm.
and there's so much fun stuff to do, bars, restaurants, events, fairgrounds, all this stuff that we call it noise. And that noise, disrupts the training program. So just over time, we had to find better ways to get clients to build healthier habits without giving up their social life. Because if they gave up their social life, they'd quit on you. So that was
Okay.
kind of my thing of always finding these little tips and hacks to help with them. You got to give me a little bit if you still want to do this, or crunch this partying down into just tighter windows and do this and that. And just over time got really good at it. And then lo and behold, I'm kind of the same way. I'm not going to give up my social life either.
Mhm.
And now that I'm experiencing that in my 40s, I'm really honing in on finding all these other modalities and ways to diet better and ways to work out better and better supplements to give you that edge to be able to kind of sustain, an athletic and functionally fit body. And so that's what I kind of themed the show over.
Yeah, I mean it's a very very specific and well named,
Yeah.
well named show. So what are some of your top fitness hacks that you like to share on the show?
Yeah. So starting with like dieting, like throughout my career, everyone's got their own diet, and I've tried every single diet. And what I've learned over the last 14 years is everyone's different. Their genetics are different, their blood work is different, their digestive tract and the way they assimilate nutrients is different. We're all humans, but everything's so different. So instead of telling people to do one specific diet over the other, I just coach people how to do the diets they're interested in, and we'll see if it works for them.
Okay.
So, being over 40, I've learned more to like be in tune with your body and seeing what feels good, and journaling and tracking what feels good and what feels bad. And so a real easy thing, a hack that I started putting on people was, the concept of intermittent fasting. And what that is, you probably know about it, is just crunching the
Mhm.
time window that you're eating. And if you're bodybuilding, it's a little harder because man, you are eating like every hour to get your 200 grams of protein, which is my issue. But the
Yeah.
tighter you can crunch that window in and give your body the repair time and its ability, they call it autophagy, to clean itself out, clean the arteries out, your digestive tract. Oh my God, since I've started implementing that, I'm just, crushing my stats on what I'm trying to do, and, you know, get as close to a single digit body fat as possible. Remember, I
Oh
like to
wow.
have my social life. So I'm
Yeah.
never going to
Yeah.
be in
Yeah.
the bodybuilder muscle fitness magazines. And that's
Yeah.
not what I promote. But, started implementing that with my clients and just seeing tremendous success. And
So do you
then,
think? Sorry. Go ahead.
and I was going to say, and then you can kind of stem off that and some people do really good with longer fasting, including myself. But, that
Mhm.
has to be kind of more looked over by a health and medical professional.
What is your ideal experience with, and this could be personally,
Mhm.
with intermittent fasting, because it does fluctuate. Some people are 12 hours, some or 8 hour feeding window only. Other, like if you listen to Huberman Lab, some people are don't get any liquid calories in 3 hours before bed, or an hour upon waking, liquid or solid. What have you found to be the best for you?
So what I found is, don't worry about picking a specific hour. It's how many hours can you do where you can get in the amount of protein that you need. That is still huge in my world, building lean muscle mass, especially the over 40 crowd, and how hard it is now, and the quality of proteins you bring in. So do not mess with that. So don't worry about 4 hour, 6 hour, 8 hour. How fast can you eat all those meals is basically what it comes down to. And if I try to do it every hour, and it's just impossible. So I had to extend some of those out. And for me, 6.5 hours, I can get it all in. Then I start my fasting process. And it's not for everybody. You have to see how you feel. And after doing it for 2 weeks, I just felt amazing. Like I never felt bloated because I was eating so much protein in that time. The fasting, I felt more energetic in the morning. I stopped drinking coffee and rock stars and monsters like we were doing at the gym, and just kept feeling better and better and better. And, sleep got better. My blood work, I started doing that. Doing it more often with my doctor, like quarterly, because I was really interested for my podcast too, to do the results. And it just kept dropping and dropping. And then when I started messing with the longer fasting, that's where the magic happens, in my opinion.
Okay, what's longer?
So longer is, you got to build up to it. You can't just go for it. So you got to start with intermittent fasting, tighten it up. And then if you feel good and your, medical professional okays it, you can start playing with doing, a 24-hour fast, a 36-hour fast. And I've completed about 4 different 48-hour fasts.
Wow. Where you're just drinking water.
Just water, coffee, lemon water, certain teas.
Just black coffee, correct?
Yes. So you can't have anything that will spike insulin, because that will break your fast and ruin the whole thing. And since I did that on one of my quarterly reports for my blood work, that was the most significant drop in my cholesterol. And it was never bad, but it was high. I attribute it to genetics and maybe the keto diet, because that's what diet I'm on. But in 4 months of doing the longer fasting, I think I did 5 of them and got up to the 48. It was a 22% drop. And my doctor couldn't even believe what he saw. And it's back to being a 18-year-old. And so I told him everything I was doing. He's like, oh man. So he's watching me and, chronicling all this kind of stuff. And, however he's using that info.
So how, back to the question of protein, I'm sorry, your window of eating. When I weigh about 205 pounds, and I fluctuate between about 190 and 200, depending if I'm heavily training for OCR season. The one thing I have trouble with is if I jam in 200 grams of protein into that window of 6-8 hours, I am just slovenly sluggish. I tend to just, as we know, when we eat, our body takes energy to digest that food. So what hack do you have that bypasses that post consumption just lag in energy?
Yeah. So one thing is just the more you practice it, the better you become.
Okay.
Then the other theory too is it's called metabolic flexibility. So the ability to do this type of fasting, longer fasting. Maybe you're not as energetic as you were before when you're pounding carbs and you're prepping for, a triathlon or something like that. But so once a week or twice a week, whenever you're doing workouts, go off the program and take in carbs, as much food as you want, and kind of shock to the body. You feel great. You do an amazing workout, and then boom, you go right back to your intermittent fasting program. And then you just kind of do that system up until, say, whatever the day is for a triathlon. And maybe the week before you start just throwing everything out the door and increasing what you used to do. And your ability of your body now to snap back to, burning glucose for, fuel versus, body fat, which is why you would do the intermittent fasting in the first place. It's just easier to switch back and forth. But if you only pick one thing, your body gets stuck in that rut. So, for me, I've had, 2 lower back surgeries from this freak accident of moving heavy gym equipment, being the gym owner. My days of powerlifting and doing mud runs and triathlons are pretty much over, and I don't do sports. So I have no interest in, having the flexibility to go that side. I'd rather stay at a fat burning state, but I do have clients that do want that. And that's the program I put for them.
Okay. Excellent. And being that Huntington Beach, Southern California, we are so exposed to dining out and going in, socializing with friends, and putting calories that are either hollow or not that great for us into our bodies, that has to be factored into your coaching style. And how would you tackle that with someone who is, a human being in the modern world, and saying like, hey man, Brad, like, look, I want, Brad Pitt Fight Club body, but
Mhm.
how can I do that and and still maintain some sense of social sanity?
Yeah. So for someone who's still active and still needs like carbs to produce whatever sport or events they're trying to
Mm,
do,
mm,
I can't throw them on a super low carb diet. So we have to kind of pull more from, the lower glycemic index of better carbs, millet, brown rice,
mhm.
oatmeal versus that kind of stuff, so they can still perform at that level. Once you start sliding down to I really don't do that kind of stuff anymore, which is most of my clients, then I
Yeah.
try to push, okay, in reality, sugar is like pretty much the reason for all disease and everything on this planet, the
Pretty much.
problems we have with heart disease. So, I mean, if you don't need to perform at these levels, let's pull you back and dial you back to a low carb, paleo, keto is what I currently do. But
Mhm.
I also promote what makes you feel good. And some clients are vegan. So, okay, we got to really work on that diet to kind of pull those carbs down. And there are options. But
How does
so
that work with vegans? Because they're a whole different religion
yeah.
of
And I've
of
done it. Yeah.
people.
And I've done vegan. I did it for 9 months. And I
How
always
is your
say
cholesterol?
cholesterol was all the way down.
Oh, okay.
I felt great. Like my body just felt clean, like a sense of
Okay.
being clean, no bloat ever. My allergies, I have environmental allergies, like a lot of people, they were
Uh-huh.
gone.
Really?
The only
How,
problem was I was the fattest I ever was. And
there
that's
it is.
because every freaking protein that they allow you to eat has more carbs than it does have protein.
Mm,
So really the only way to do like the vegan diet, and I tried out the vegan keto diet, which is even harder.
yeah.
And
It's just what,
basically it's
beans and rice?
no,
Or
not even
no,
that.
no, it
You
wouldn't
can't
be,
have
no,
beans.
because you can't have beans. Right, right.
So
Well, what the hell are you eating? You're having like
yeah,
backpacks full of some one thing.
yeah. Basically, it
How are
was
you?
nutritional yeast,
Oh,
tofu,
fun.
tempeh, and then a whole lot of pea protein isolate protein drinks.
Mm,
That's really
yum.
the only way you can do it.
And were you the gassiest you've ever been after that?
No, because I have like little ways of, I would take apple cider vinegar to help kind of calm the digestive
Ah,
tract before eating and
beautiful. Yeah.
that kind of
Okay.
stuff. So I never had too much problems with that, but it's boring. So
Yes,
for
it
for
is.
me, I've found the happy medium with, keto, dirty keto. I cheat all the time, but it's basically like low carb enough, but not where the keto markers says you're supposed to be at. But
Got
I
it.
have a breathalyzer. I still hit ketones all the time.
Okay.
And then just the intermittent fasting was the biggest thing.
Okay. Excellent. I think that I think it sounds like one thing that I think is really cool about your story is that it sounds like you've walked all those paths,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like when your clients come to you, you have a personal anecdote that you can throw their way to help them get through the fast or the craving or the I get grumpy when I'm hungry. I'm sure people get, well, hangry, I guess is what they
Yeah.
call it now. But my wife put us on a juice cleanse. She's like, oh, we're just gonna do this for like 3 days. And I was like, I really don't want to do that. I don't, please. And it was just not a fun time at all. And my philosophy is work hard. Obviously, you want to expend more calories than you're
Mm-hmm.
taking in if you're maintaining or trying to lose weight. And if your grandmother didn't cook with it and you cannot pronounce it, don't put it into your body. Also, I found that my clients don't care because they care, but they don't care the details.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, tell me what to do, give me three things. And after three things, the human brain stops listening. And so it's work hard, don't put it in your body if grandma didn't cook with it or you can't pronounce it. And that's worked pretty well
Yeah.
so far. But so tell me about this horrendous back injury that changed your lifting and competing career. What happened, man?
Yeah, so this was about 5 years ago, and I was moving some gym equipment. I had at that time still three places,
Mhm,
moving some from one gym to another, and just pulled up the pickup truck. Was just going to go in for a quick couple things.
mhm,
This was one of our garage industrial type gyms, so it had a big roll up door, um, and right there by the door are two eye bolts that we had pounded into the concrete, and we would hook our carabiners with our battle ropes on those, and that's what we use our battle ropes on. So when you cleaned up your ropes, they'd still be exposed as trip hazards. So we put
mhm.
orange cones on them. Well, I was just there to pick up a couple things, not open up the gym for everyone to come in. So I was like, don't worry about it. I'm just literally getting two things and we're out of here. And ended up talking to somebody. Now I forgot those exist. Turned around, I was holding a 40-pound A-frame weight plate stack rack, and then just tripped with my right foot, lunged out, caught myself so violently, and I held the rack like an idiot, didn't let it go. And
Yeah,
right then and there was such a violent motion. I just felt something pop. I felt it hurt it through my whole body. And I
yeah,
knew, oh my
wow.
God. So ended up being a herniated L5S1 disc that I didn't know
Man,
till 6 months
that's
later, because
right at the bottom. Yeah.
yeah, and that happens to be almost every guy that's got any type of degenerative disc. It's always the L4, L5, or L5S1. It's just,
Mhm.
we roughhouse when we're boys, we wrestle, we fight, we're
No.
top heavy. It's just a joint that takes the biggest hit. And it
Yep.
doesn't take much. You hear people going down to touch their toes or gardening when they're older and blowing out a disc. At least I have a cool story. Mine was so violent and heavy that at least I earned it, I guess. But
Right, right, right.
it took two surgeries over 4 years and rehabbing to finally figure out that not everything heals with surgery and time. Everyone's different,
Yeah.
and I had to find a different way to train and get my body back. So what I found was obviously I do all my physical therapy exercises and all
Mhm.
that, but finding like the right amount of weight training that I can sustain with the least amount of weight. So the whole theory, I'm sure you've heard of it, of like time under tension or doing a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
negatives or slow-mo training. I started
Mhm.
going more in that route and doing less time. So I really
Yeah.
started uh, putting a spin off of doing 20-minute workouts, but doing
Okay.
it all under time under tension and very
Mhm.
quality. So when you're doing your push-ups, feeling every single muscle fiber being used and holding, and going back down, just feeling that burn. You're only able to
Yeah.
do like 6 reps if you're doing it like 5 to 10 seconds long. And
Yeah.
then if you can start adding some weight or a pack on your back, and same thing with the squat, same thing with bicep curls, and doing it,
Uh-huh.
just doing more full body exercises instead of doing splits,
Yeah.
because I'm not trying to bodybuild anymore. I'm just trying to be functionally healthy. So doing that
Well,
style has just been so tremendous. No injuries. My back feels great. And, that's the name of my game now is, I got to make it now to, I feel like I'm going to make it to 100, 120 one day. I got to
yeah.
protect this back.
Yeah, that's true. Some days are better than others, that's for sure.
Yep.
But I think that the style that you were describing of how you turn every like let's say a push up isn't just, or in my belief as well, shouldn't be a chest exercise. It should be a whole body exercise. Your whole
Yes.
body should be stabilizing, and I think that's really great, Brad, because it not only causes you to slow down and focus on the quality of your movements, but it's also grooving those neural connections deeper from the brain to the body, and building focus and control over yourself. And I 100% agree with you that that's the smart way to train once you've been a younger athlete and rah 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 thrown yourself against the
Yeah.
wall, something goes pop, and then you're forced to slow things down.
Yeah. And, focusing on that mind body connection, growing up, we all, said, tighten your core while you do this, perfect your form. What's to like the upteenth level? Like you're doing a push up, your core is tight, you're flexing your glutes, you're going down, stretching your calves, and taking every step so slow. And it's almost becomes a game. Like how many more muscles can you activate during this process? And doing
Hmm.
that style, like I said, it takes little or no weight to get the same effect, to get the hormonal stimulus response of a growing new muscle. And as long as your diet's good, I have the same body I had when I was in my 30s now.
Yeah, wow.
So now implementing the system, and I'm only doing 20-minute workouts. Like now
That's great.
athleticism is totally different. And that's where I'm
Mhm,
saying I'm not worried about that. And that's not who
mhm.
I'm looking for. So athleticism needs to do a whole different style of training program.
Yeah. Now, what about your clients that you train? Are you training them 20-minute workouts also?
Yeah, so I still work at my gym that I have now, just
Mhm.
2 days a week, and I mostly just do half-hour workouts. But half the time they're talking, and then half the time they're working out. But once they start that workout, it's I build them up to never taking breaks, and then they'll finish with a little bit of cardio at the end.
Got it.
And then same thing with online training. I used to do a program called True Coach and write splits and all that kind of stuff for people, but
Mhm.
now I'm just more into the coaching role, just working on more of philosophies and mind body connection, diet, all that kind of stuff. So it's more of just a coaching role.
So break down your online training platform. Like, I'm familiar with True Coach and Trainerize, and there's other great ones out there like Remote Coach, to build your own platform up.
hmm
But what does your online training look like as an
Yes.
experience?
Yeah. So basically it's just this right here, one-on-one Zoom call
Okay.
for 30 minutes. And I do it just basically once a month with, tech support, sending them little PDF files. But, we go over all the different steps, like, what are your goals? Do you have any injuries? Just like I would in the gym.
Uh-huh.
But now, like, more importantly is like, how is your sleep? How's your energy levels? Do you have any stress? Those kind of things I never really dabbled in when I was running my brick and mortar gyms. We were more of just, you're here to lift weights.
Uh-huh.
But as you age, all those things that I just mentioned are more important before you
Yeah.
even start lifting weights, or you're basically in such a high level of cortisol because of all the stress, lack of sleep. You're not hydrated enough, that the workouts are just worthless. So why
Yeah.
spend the time doing that unless you take care of those core strategies first? So those are the types of things that I'll do online coaching with. And then once we get to the training part, then I usually refer them out to, what are you doing now? Do you have a home workout? Do you go to a gym? And kind of give them strategies of what to do there versus writing
Mhm.
down all the actual exercises. I can if someone wants me to, but
Yeah. So what's the turnover rate of that business style? Or is it client retention pretty long, or is it more you have people coming to you all the time?
so it's better because I used to charge $150 to have that call with you, write out your whole programs, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 7 days a week if someone wanted. And
Mhm.
I just didn't like it because unless I'm physically there, like, or they're coming to me at my local gym, that's the motivation and accountability. So if I'm writing these programs out for them, I'm not there until our next monthly checkup,
Right,
and
right.
they're just not going to do it. So
Yeah.
their retention is terrible. So I would rather charge a lower price and just do a shorter time consult, and have them go somewhere or whatever they doing that they like doing. Maybe it's
Yeah.
Pilates, maybe it's just a home workout, maybe it's their local gym, but giving them someone who's had 14 years of experience, who's over 40, who's had injuries. These
Mhm.
are the game plans you need to work on. And then I'll check back in with you this month, next month. There is no contract or anything. So I found out this style of online training
Mhm.
has just been better for retention. It's more fun for me.
Yeah.
And I'm actually thinking about, I've got a coach, a business coach that's really pushing me to do more of the like group Zoom, you get 10, 15 people in there, get the
Yeah.
price down even more, and do like
Yeah.
once a quarter, like event type thing.
Okay. That is a good idea because scalability is very, very powerful in this industry. And that brings me to my next question. How is it that you're marketing and finding people for your services?
So the podcast is my biggest one right now.
Okay,
Um,
great.
and I'm still growing this. So it's not like a huge amount of influx that I'm getting from this. Most of my income was coming from the gym, but I'm doing this
Mhm.
transition of moving and just getting away from the brick and mortar gyms.
Sure.
Um, so other than that, I really don't do any social media. I hate doing social media, but
It's a poisonous tool, but there's
yeah,
yeah.
as I'm getting more coming from my podcast, and um, my goal is to hire it out. I'll still put the content out. I just don't want to do the chopping, the titles, and all that kind of stuff. And I'd rather
Yeah.
just be you know jumping in with the discussion and involving myself with the community of social media, not doing the actual post. So that's kind of more of phase 2 right now. It's just my podcast is just growing so tremendously. I just want to put all my effort into that, what's working good.
That's great. Yeah, well, it's definitely it's a very entertaining show, and I really enjoy the snack size bits of information. I think that a lot of your listeners probably do also. It shows in the numbers, right? If it's growing at the rate that you're sharing, then more power to you, man.
Yeah.
So well, you're not on social media, but I want to kind of wrap with where can people find you, and what message do you have to not just over 40, but to anyone who is maybe injured or has a rut that they're trying to get through. What's your best advice to them, and then how can they contact you if they need some help?
Yeah, so the best way to contact me is my podcast is Over 40 Fitness Hacks, and that's 40, not spelled out. And my website is over40fitnesshacks.com, also 40, not spelled out. And that has my blogs, my contact, my email on there. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. And as far as a message to everybody, I wish I could myself go back in time to when I'm 20. And that's what I was like joking about, and, giving that not just business, but also for, all the fitness knowledge I know, and starting while you're younger. But if you were 20 and you could go back in time and talk to yourself, would your 20-year-old self even listen to you? I think I get punched in the face.
Yeah, probably not.
So, I mean, more and more awareness is great, but my focus is kind of more for the 40, because you kind of got to, like you mentioned, you got to go through life and earn your wings and just grow as a person. And then you get to that point where, like, okay, I need to stop worrying about aesthetics so much and more worry about functional and making it to my older years. You keep seeing these 80-year-olds on social media that are doing more stuff than us. It's just amazing,
Yes.
just showing you how resilient the body is if you take care of it. So my message is slow down, be very mindful of everything you do. And just, there's so much time you don't even know it. So just, do things with more quality. Don't just rep out and slam weights, when you could just do it slower with less weight and get the same result. Unless you're getting paid millions of dollars to perform at the NFL level, what are you doing? So that's kind of my message out there for anyone that cares.
I love it, Brad. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I really appreciate you sharing your expertise and your time with us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Philip.